in order to have the 3-day symposium that you're having in May of 2023. Did you want to give out some shout outs? Any of the three want to give the shout out to additional work group folks, and then how you landed to a specific symposium in 2023 on critical race theory inside of the climate that the retrenchment and repivot away from critical consciousness of race that we seem to be, the culture war we seem to be experiencing. So that's 3-layered. Did you want to give shout outs to your peeps? Did you want to bridge the time between the 21 and 23 symposium? And then you get the bravery tattoo for leaning into critical race theory.
I'm happy to do all that. I can definitely say that props to the CUNY folks, Dan Conyers, who's at LaGuardia Community College, Emma Antibatman-Takudzi, who's at Bronx Community College, Linda Miles, who's at Hostos Community College, and Stephanie Margolin, who's at Hunter College. And then also to Liam Adler, who was one of the co-authors of that book, who's at Barnard College. And then we also have 2 more NYU folks, Leah Warner and Hafiza Hussein. So, and then we have a great student worker, Haley Bird, who is an intern at NYU and is at the Palmer School of Library Science. So everybody's just been so great to work with and super fun to get on a call with once a week and, play with each other a little bit. I would also say that the idea of moving it to CRT specifically, as you mentioned, there was 2020 gave everyone permission and almost a need or requirement to have a anti-racist statement on their about page of their website, to have a strategic plan related to how they were going to reflect work with diversity, and I'm putting my fingers in quotes. And so I think that what we found over the course of the 3-year period is that there was almost because of the needs for institutionalization, it became watered down. Suddenly there is, we're just saying diversity and inclusion, DEI, EDI. Now we're just using letters. We're not using the words. The word race sometimes doesn't get mentioned. And it gets really overlaid with, if we're relating it to pedagogy, active learning strategies, which that is extremely important and part of the conversation, but that's not the end of the conversation, right? We have to think about the intention behind those active learning strategies. So we really felt that when we put the call out initially, that a radicalism was important to sustain itself in this process, which is why we were Black women to the front, radicalism all the way, but also that it's everybody's work to do it. And in some ways, when Black folks do it, you don't really need to foreground race because it's a lived experience, right?
It's more than implied.
Exactly. And when white folks do it, we need a foregrounding of race. And I think that there was almost a modeling challenge there, that if white folks are watching Black folks do the work, there is a distance that's still inside of the process. Well, I can't speak on it because I'm not a person of color.
It's still landing as performative as well, right? Whether they're being performative, they also participate in watching a performance, right? That's the convenience and comfort. Is the 180 from white fragility. But I digress. Please continue.
No, I mean, and I would love for Heba and Symphony to maybe articulate this better than me, but and I'll just say that I think that this critical race theory focus is meant to acknowledge and to have everybody step up to the plate. If we're doing this work, let's not work around it. Let's not speak against the intention as to why we started this to begin with. And also acknowledging that it's not safe to do that, right? We acknowledge that we're in New York and we have a certain level of privilege of being in New York, that we're able to use any words we want to use in our programming and in our librarianship. And that's not the case across the country. So even that there is a space-based implication connected to this symposium, despite it being online, right? That there is some jurisdictional privilege going on too, and wanting to foreground that and not hide behind sort of diversity language.
So that was a lot to pull on. How, Heba and Symphony, how has your experience been um, stepping out on a platform and fully throating CRT, and because that's not always solid sand. That sometimes that sand is shifting depending on who you're engaging and how deep you're getting into it.
I mean, I would say that I wasn't on the planning committee for the 2021 version. That was a much smaller group. I wasn't even in my position yet. But we obviously have other folks throughout the profession who are doing similar things and putting on similar events, like the CLAPS conference, for example, where we get a lot of sort of critical pedagogy type work happening as well. And I think that part of my will to be a part of this planning committee was because it was focused on critical race theory. We're going to be doing something different and focused and intentional that perhaps that has not been done quite yet in some of the other forums through which we see sort of criticality being discussed. And of course, there's a lot of places that folks are doing the work. There's a lot of conversations being had in many different modalities. But I appreciated the intentionality of the smaller group who decided this conference theme. And then I decided to join the committee because I think it's really important and interesting. And I appreciated that.
Okay. And Hiba, I'm going to suspect you have a unique perspective to share as well.
Well, a lot like Symphony, I did really also appreciate like the intentionality of just framing the symposium in this way. I think in a lot of the other conferences and events that I've attended, this is like an issue that people are tiptoeing around and not wanting to state directly. And it might come in other ways. And I always found that to be a little bit frustrating. You might have people talking around the issue, but not talking about the issue directly. So I really like the opportunity to be in a space where this is what we're going to talk about and explicitly saying, this is what we're framing it as. And again, like going back to like my desire to always ask the why questions, like asking the why of like, why did we get here? Like, why are we doing these things in libraries? And why CRT, why this symposium? So all of these were very interesting to me.